welcome to Tuesday, June 13th, 2017 Board of Commissioners meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you would, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. I am unaware of any changes to the agenda, and if so, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Okay. Public comments, general, we have nobody signed up for public comments, so we'll pass on that. And we'll move to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's have it. At this time, I'd like to bring forward Lisa McCarter for a little recognition.
Okay, tonight I'd like to recognize Max Oliver for 5 years of service. I've had the privilege of working with him for the last 4 years, and he's just a hard-working team player, always willing to lend a hand, fill in whenever we need it. He also volunteers in the community. He was Lurch in the Halloween house, haunted house. So we're just so thankful for Max and hope that he serves here many more years. And we have this plaque here.
We won't make you give a speech, Max. Okay. Okay, thank you, Lisa, and congratulations, Max. Next up, we're going to do a quick run-through of the citizen survey. Back in early May, the board, in a work session, was taken through at a very detailed level the output by the consultant as to the feedback that we got in conducting the town survey during the month of February and March. And in last week, I was asked to present it to the Rotary, and in seeing that, Manager Ferguson suggested that we do this condensed version in front of the budget hearing so people understand just exactly what's happening and what the feelings are across the town. So with that, I'm going to run through this quick. There's a few slides, but we'll get through it fairly quickly. First of all, why do a survey, or where did the survey come from? A couple of years ago, the then board worked hard to bring together all of the various plans into a cohesive vision and some strategic initiatives, one of which was to promote meaningful community building and engagement. It's a key focus area. I'm delighted to say, I think, and I speak for the whole board, 2016-17 has been a year of significant progress. We've established some standards and policies to support the government model that we're under, a protocol, if you will. We've modernized or attempted to modernize just about every electronic and technology aspect that we've had. Town Clerk Melody Schuler led the charge on iCompass and Laserfiche to bring forward, bring us out of the paper century and into the digital century that provides for full, enables more access, awareness, and full transparency. We've enhanced, and beyond Melody, there's Nick, there's Matt, and there's Jenny as they've tried to modernize and clean up and bring us into the 21st century across all the technologies, be it iCompass, the website, social media, et cetera. We've enhanced the volunteer boards and committees. We've streamlined the process so it's very clear as to what we're going after, what we need support on. We have a board that actually does the recruitment and helps us identify candidates, and that's been a process over 6 months that we've cleaned up. And then we did the survey. We learned a little bit the last town manager search. when we did a Survey Monkey led by our HR director, Wendy Davenport. We just went out and actually sent 10 questions out, and we found out that a lot of people wanted to weigh in. And how do we formalize this? How do we make sure we're getting consistent input? So, purpose and design, very simple. Gather information, compare and benchmark Waxhaw to the dozens of communities that the consultant has surveyed. I think over 25 in the state of North Carolina alone. Establish a baseline so we can begin to measure progress instead of just getting anecdotes. We actually measure progress against where we are. The design point, households within 28173, our tax base, if you will, and do it on a household basis. We needed 400 homes to be statistically valid. We got close to 1,100 homes. So that was a phenomenal turnout by the citizenry of Waxhaw. You see the demographic. We've got a demographic shift underway as the age gets younger and younger. I think the average age right now is just a little bit under 37 when you do the math from the population statistics. And mirroring our population growth, about 87% of the people responding have lived here less than 15 years. The stunning thing to me, and this mirrors our population, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, 45% of those responding have lived here less than 5 years. And that mirrors our population growth. You just think about that in terms of what are they aware of town-wise, and what do we need to do to educate. What did we see here? There is one high level of satisfaction with Waxhaw and the services the town provides, and congratulations to the staff that provides it. What do I mean by that? The perception of the town, from quality of life, quality of schools, appearance of town, quality of town services, the image of the town, tremendously satisfied across the board, better than 2/3 on all those areas. The reasons for moving to Waxhaw, better than 70% satisfied, from the small town feel all the way up to public safety, quality of life. Interestingly enough, the quality of subdivisions. People are liking the neighborhoods that we're building out and homes. They're happy with the type of housing that is being built here, the diversity of housing that is being built here. And then when you get to the overall major services, public services, and I was kidding the chief a little bit earlier. Not only is the second safest city in the town of Waxhaw, he's the second highest rated service within the town of Waxhaw. He plays second fiddle to Todd Matthews and his crew back there. So thank you, Todd. Easy, Bobby. But in terms of satisfaction, you look at that, 95%, 93%. Code enforcement, which we just put that department in place and really elevated within the last year, 78%. Satisfied with the overall quality of events, 75%. Development and redevelopment, this one surprised me, given the comments on growth from time to time, 65%. And Parks and Rec, albeit a little bit lower, at 58% satisfied. I'm not going to read through this whole chart, but we measured 52 different items, and Waxhaw is significantly higher, which means 10 percentage points above the audience or the participating towns in 34 of the 52 areas. That's just phenomenal. The consultant hasn't seen that kind of satisfaction in many towns, and certainly not in any of the towns across North Carolina. That's just a fabulous benchmark to where we are, and again, congratulations to the staff on achieving that. Yeah, there are absolutely positively areas that we need to improve upon. No question about it. And there are three of them, major ones: traffic flow and congestion, the number of public parks and athletic fields, and the quality of outdoor athletic fields. Those are big ticket items, big monetary items. So we have to really think about how we're going to do that in the years to come, in the months and years to come. Purposely bulleted down below, rating of the town as a place to work. That ties more into an economic development strategy and what we really are targeting there, and we have some work to do there. We're not the job center that Charlotte is, obviously, but we also have to do some definition as to what we really want to be and how we want to go after it. Just very quickly, the detail by services. When you get to the satisfaction, look, public services, 96%, and then as you go through some of the different things when it gets to the core, the maintenance of downtown, the satisfaction with the cleanup of debris, the cleanup of junk and abandoned vehicles. A lot of times here, we'll get the complaints coming to the podium, but you don't realize when you get a 22% hit rate like this, and just for those that are wondering, the validity of this is within plus or minus 1.5%. So it's very statistically valid with the participation that we got. And the maintenance. Where do we have to focus on these core services? Todd, keep doing what you're doing and do it better and more. That was the message. Don't mess with it. You're doing a great job. Maintenance of street and sidewalks, maybe step it up a little bit there. The street lighting in some areas. Cleanup of overgrown and weedy lots, that's always a biggie this time of year and a tough one because of how you have to go about it. And then debris and litter in the roadway. When you get to public safety, fire protection, emergency response, police response, and animal control, all very highly, better than 2/3 satisfied with all of that. And then the public safety areas, to emphasize over the next couple of years, continue to focus on the crime prevention and the police academy that makes people aware of just exactly how the police department operates. Got very high marks. Visibility of police in the retail areas, that's a tough one given the coverage that we have, but that came up. And then just as we grow parks and add parks, how are we going to address safety, and specifically to the trails as we bring more trails online, that becomes a bigger challenge. From a Parks and Rec standpoint, satisfied with the quality of special events, the frequency of events, and the maintenance of the parks. We have work to do on the number of public parks and the athletic fields, the maintenance of those parks in a consistent manner, the types of events, which is a nuance that came out in the survey. Maybe add a little bit of variety to it, and then again, the safety in the parks. Development and redevelopment, 50-50 split here to 2/3 split on satisfaction with the development. They're satisfied with the overall appearance of downtown, satisfied with the quality of residential development. A lot of work to do, and we had a work session on the retail side, the quality of new business development and what Waxhaw can or cannot bring into town, and then planning for future growth. And this is one that is kind of interesting because it's probably the one area that more time has been spent on, but we're obviously doing a lousy job of communicating on that, and so we have to work on that. Some additional findings. Back in August of 2005, we changed to the council manager form of government. Your first line of defense is the town manager and the administrative staff. Only 30% of people have ever called on the town with a question, problem, or complaint, or for some information over the last year. Better than 70% are just ignoring the town when going for the information. 67% get their information word of mouth. They don't validate it, it's just word of mouth. And it was real clear in the survey, 58% of when you're getting it word of mouth, they include social media as the word of mouth. Only 5% reach out to town staff or the officials to get their information. That's something we have to work on. That's something we have to work on very aggressively to make sure that when you're getting the information, it's accurate information. Good news here, we had very little participation with the town newspaper, and we're up to 30. We're in single digits. We're at 38% now in terms of use and getting information. And as we continue to refine that and some of the work that the communications team's doing and splitting it out between happenings and news is going to move the ball forward. And then 20% of the town are getting it from town emails and press releases, which again, now that we have a policy and a process for that, you can start to get that information out more consistently, and people can start to trust in that information. If half of our respondents and population have lived in Waxhaw less than 5 years, it does raise the question, how the heck do they know about our history? And what are we doing about that? Our heritage, all those things. And then how do they know about growth management? Probably totally unaware of it. And we got to do a better job of those two things. They're two linchpins as to what makes Waxhaw. As far as where to invest, it was very clear again from the survey. It was a very specific question. Do we have the right amount of services? 3/4 of the people said yes. So continue to make sure that you're focused on those and doing them right. And you think about it, it sounds easy, but when you're adding 300 homes a year, think about the impact that puts on Todd as he's He manages solid waste, yard waste, recyclables, the appliance pickups in the fall, and then the leaf vacuuming that's been occurring since 2002. I mean, that's just grown exponentially and put a burden, and yet we've been able to do that over the last 2-3 years without any tax increase whatsoever. As far as where do we invest and what are our investment priorities, what the survey did was actually do an important satisfaction analysis, examining the importance residents placed on each of the town services and the level of satisfaction each. The top two priorities with parks number 3, but traffic flow and congestion, there's no question about that, was the number 1, and then maintenance of town streets and infrastructure. Make sure, if we have a plan, let's make sure we communicate it, but let's make sure we have one as well. So where are we and where are we going to take this? We're right in the middle of Mr. Ferguson's transition from manager from May 1st. We're going to continue that 90-day town manager transition assessment. This month, we're going to ensure the current and future tax dollars are properly prioritized. By law, we have to approve a budget, and we're going to approve it to meet the statutory requirements. We're going to have Greg come back to us in August, and on August 14th, we're going to have a retreat where we focus in on what budget adjustments do we need to make to reflect the findings of this survey and the assessment, and what do we have to do to make sure we're focused on the priorities. On the communication side, and we're going to enhance what we started through information sharing, education, and emphasis on education. We started that last year with town hall meetings. Mr. Ferguson and I, once he gets his sea legs, we'll probably go out to the neighborhoods again and do those kind of things. Those are very, very effective ways to convey expectations, messages, and actually get to some in-depth questions that different neighborhoods have. And we will continue this emphasis and communicate on how we govern and the progress that Waxhaw is making. So with that, that is the synopsis of a roughly about 120-page citizen survey document. So wanted to put that out there in front of all of you as we begin the budget discussion. So thank you. Next up, we'll go to the commissioners' reports. Commissioner Warner.
I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yep.
Commissioner Fitzgerald?
Yes, I do. I just want to update everybody on a couple of heritage things that we had done in town. On the art kaleidoscope, we had 4 artists inside the Duncan McDonald house. That was a house that we upfitted and brought it back to its glory days. And every one of those artists inside that house won a prize. And I'm just so tickled that we actually had that facility. We put the money in there for now and for later, for future use for the town. We preserved our heritage. The other thing is, recently, at the meeting place, we have put the teller's window in from the Bank of Waxhaw that was built in 1905 as a room divider. I want you to go in there and actually see what it looks like. It's on display permanently at loan from the museum. And I'm just tickled that we can preserve our heritage that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fitzgerald. Commissioner Burrow?
Yes, just one thing, probably our most important product in Waxhaw. We've seen hundreds of them over the last couple of weeks, which are high school graduates, many of whom are on their way to college. I think they are to be congratulated. Those of you who know them, give them a pat on the back, wish them well. We had a tremendous amount of kids at Cuthbertson, Parkwood, and even my own granddaughter at Providence High. So to the graduating seniors, congratulations.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Hunt?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I want to take a few moments to thank the staff, the citizen volunteers, and the citizens who came out on Memorial Day for the memorial service at the wall. It was widely attended, and it came off as a great event. Also, heads up on July 4th coming up. It's going to be on July 4th this year, Tuesday. There's details on our website, waxhaw.com, detailing the 10 o'clock parade start, and then the afternoon activities with the water park, and then the culminating in the fireworks that evening. Also, thank you, Commissioner Fitzgerald. I was at the meeting place last night and got to see that. It does look great.
Four quick items. I too, along the lines of Commissioner Burrow, want to congratulate first all the schools who, as of today, completed their academic year, and special congrats to not just the seniors, but the 6 graduating classes, 5th graders, middle schoolers, and high schoolers from Kensington Elementary, Waxhaw Elementary, Cuthbertson Middle, Parkwood Middle, Parkwood High School, and Cuthbertson High School. It represents close to 1,000 kids graduating over the course of the last 3 days. So that in and itself is a huge milestone. Along those lines, last meeting I mentioned the potential for establishing a youth council with the high school students from Parkwood and Cuthbertson. Superintendent Houlihan has given his okay to that, and all the school principals have signed on to it. And so we're going to be working over the summer months to have that ready and raring to go to bring back to the board come August. Yesterday, I spent time with the Organizational Advisory Board, primarily to review the new orientation manual that outlines the process they go through in terms of the appointment process, that shared all the rules of procedure to make it real clear how we do things, in that we look to them to treat this as a living document and bring the feedback back to the full board on a regular basis at their quarterly updates. They were very positive about it. They were excited that we've streamlined it and made it much clearer and much more specific as to what we're looking for and what's expected. And again, how we expect it to be brought back to the full board. They raised a concern, and before they could get too far, I just stopped. I didn't want to hear any more information, and I told them I would come back to the board. They're taking individual calls and on opinions about various things with certain groups or certain boards and board members, and I made it very clear to them that they report to the full board, and they are to bring everything back to the full board, and they do not have to entertain those kinds of questions and discussions, and rather they continue through the application process and bring everything to the full board. And I told them I'm sure it was just inadvertent, but I would also put it out there for the full board to hear it from me, so they can do their job in a very objective way. Last but not least, I sent to the board earlier today, made you aware of, well, Manager Ferguson made you aware of the public meeting Thursday, June 15th on the proposed closure of rail crossing at Torrey Path Road in Union County. This thing has moved very fast. I sent you a draft of a memo that I would like to read at that hearing that asks them to slow down and actually let's put a plan in place and actually discuss it and discuss the long-term consequences of public safety as well as transportation with it, and would welcome all of you being there at the meeting, but also reach some consensus as to you're okay with me reading that memo to make sure everybody understands that we don't think you should be moving that quickly. We need a growth management plan for that section of town. Makes it difficult. It's a donut hole. It's in the county. But it butts right up to Millbridge and could forever impact the Millbridge development as we go forward. So hopefully if you had a chance to read it, does anybody object to me reading that tomorrow or Thursday night at the meeting? Okay. Very good. With that, I don't know if you have a report or if you want to go to the budget, but it's on. You're on.
So to give a little bit further detail on the budget retreat, that is scheduled for August 14th. It will be here at the police department, and it will start at approximately 8:30 and go most of the day. So that's currently scheduled for one day. The thought process is if we need a second day, that we look at a separate time. So August 14th, 8:30 in the morning here at the police department for the budget retreat, mid-year budget retreat. The second item is part of the ongoing assessment of our CIP program is in the month of July. We'll be looking at the CIP projects that are part of the budget as adopted, and then bringing forward some additional projects that might be retreat items in August And a second part of that will be looking at an estimate of the cost of those items and then our debt capacity. So what capacity might we have going forward in 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years as far as debt if you're looking at public facilities, parks and recreation, and transportation enhancements. So we'll be working on that to have some information ready for the 14th of August. The last item is that staff is working on a program called Waxhaw 101, which is a basic civic education course for the town departments and the town functions. That'll be rolled out later this year, most likely in the winter months when participation would be a little bit greater. There will be an initial class who will be our first group to go through. That group will be fairly small, and we'll work to try to learn from that first experience so that we can build on that for future years. So that program, look forward, it'll be called Waxhaw 101, and we look forward to rolling that out.
That's great. Any questions for the manager? Okay. Next up, public hearing for fiscal year 2017-2018 recommended budget. A recommended budget is required by law to be adopted by the town board before the beginning of the fiscal year. On May 23rd, 2017, Town Manager Ferguson presented the recommended budget to the board. The board recessed and continued that discussion on June 7th. And by law, we must hold a public hearing before the budget can be adopted. The Board of Commissioners scheduled the public hearing for June 13th, 2017 today, and such was advertised in accordance with the applicable law. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Manager Ferguson.
Mayor, the town recommended budget has been entered into the record previously. I think the key takeaway is that the tax rate is proposed to remain unchanged at 36 cents. There are funding of several projects that are park projects, but there are also some opportunities as we move forward to look at funding of some road projects and some sidewalk projects. One in particular that will come forward is a community block grant that will include some sidewalk on 75. So those will come into the budget process later in the year.
When's the official approval of that, or has that been approved by the?
The first step has taken place at the county, but the funds have not been dispersed. And with that, that was all we had tonight.
Any questions any follow-up questions for Manager Ferguson? Okay, we have nobody signed up to comment. So with that, given there is no further questions and nobody signed up to discuss the budget, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up, public hearing for Highway 75 property general rezoning petition RZ 005746-2017. It's a request for a rezoning map amendment for the documented parcels. It's about 19.02 acres from C2 highway commercial to NMX neighborhood mixed use, located along the north side of Waxhaw Highway 75, just west of the intersection of Hermitage Place. With that, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
With that, Mr. Tim Jones.
Thank you. I don't know if this is on. Okay. There we go. Yes, this is a petition for a general rezoning. It's a request by RHH Land Investors, and it is a request for a rezoning of 19.02 acres from C2 to NMX. The property is located off of Highway 75, just west of the intersection with Hermitage Place Drive. The site is currently vacant and situated adjacent to other parcels in the downtown district. This is a current zoning map course, the current zoning is C2. That's highway commercial. See the surrounding zoning on the map. Different residential areas. And the NMX TC, the downtown zoning that it will complement. This is a map of the proposed zoning. As I mentioned, the areas that it complements: to the west, the TC Town Center, and the other NMX. And that's where the American Legion is located. It's NMX also. Now this is a future land use map. It shows the G3 intended growth sector for the future plan. It's in the comprehensive plan, and the growth sector is for mixed use.
Code red works. Everybody's going to get them right now because there's a thunderstorm warning and a flash flood warning.
So, in our planning staff analysis and recommendation, staff recommends approval of the proposed general zoning. The district is in keeping with the future land use for the area. It's compatible with the future goals for the town. And the property is adjacent to other properties with the same or similar zoning. The planning board recommendation: they voted to send a favorable recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. The vote was 6-1 with one dissenting vote, and that description there is also in your packet. So the requested action tonight for the hearing is to either approve, well, will be to approve or deny. This is the hearing. And to eventually make a decision on the reasonableness and consistency statement.
So any questions for Mr. Jones? Is the applicant here and wish to speak?
Do you wish to say something? He's here, but
Okay.
I have a quick
Attorney
one.
Spencer?
I just want to ask you about the publication and notice. Was the property noticed and advertised in accordance with the governing statutes?
yes,
Okay.
yes, it was advertised the 2 times, and also posted on the property 2 times.
Adjacent property owners were notified as well. Okay,
Oh, and the mailings too. Yes, sorry.
wonderful. Thank you.
And just a matter of record, I think it's, in the printed one, page 272 lists all the adjacent property owners that were notified. So it is in the record. Here, in terms of public comments, W.L. Higgins wishes to speak.
My official name is Wallace L. Higgins, but everybody calls me Wally, so that's all right. I do not live in Waxhaw. However, I am the commander of American Legion Post 208. And what we're concerned is what is going to be on that property, the density of it, and the types of buildings. We have limited space there and limited parking in our lot, and we're concerned about what's going to be built there. If it's going to be residents, they're probably going to be woke up in the middle of the night from the railroad track going by there. So that's one of our concerns, the density and what's going to be built there. The second concern is we have a bottleneck at 16 and 75. And whatever businesses or residents going to be built there, going to be turning right out of that zone and heading right downtown to multiply your problem at that intersection. So as commissioners and planning this town, you ought to consider that, because there's no alternate way into Waxhaw and north of Waxhaw unless you go way down the road and make a big circle around. And that's the two concerns that the American Legion has. Now, the American Legion is the only service organization in the western part of the county. We expect to grow as fast as the Waxhaw is growing in the next few years, so we'll be taking care of a lot more veterans. But I just wanted to speak and let you know what our concerns were.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Jones, just a point of clarification. Whatever transpires here, this property would be held accountable to the new traffic impact analysis ordinance that we have in place, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Jones? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, next up, some old business. Action regarding local historic landmark designation of the Waxhaw Water Tower. The local historic landmark request is by the Waxhaw Development Services Department staff on behalf of the structure's owner, the town of Waxhaw, to designate the Waxhaw Water Tower tank as a local historic landmark. The water tower / tank is located at 113 McDonald Street, identified by Union County parcel ID as designated in the application. The public hearing was held by the Board of Commissioners on May 23rd, and staff has recommended approval with one of two motions. Attorney Spencer, you have obviously written the two motions, or put them together, and you and I had talked there. While both are appropriately written, there's a legal point that you wanted to make about one versus the other.
Yes, when I initially drafted it, I used water tower because that was the terminology used by the state in the certification process from their approval letters. I do understand the history of the town, and everybody refers to it as the water tank. So I tried to come up with an option and gave you two ordinances. With that, the state said they can change the name.
They can or cannot?
The state can change the name in the state registry. However, the water tower or water tank is already and has been for years in the National Historic Registry. That's going to be on a federal level. That's not going to change. They don't have,
water tower.
is the water tower. They don't have the authority to change that, and I don't think you do either. So it's always going to be known on at least one registry, the national, that was the first designation, as the water tower. I think it'd be cleaner to have the names the same, so whenever you're trying to apply for funding, especially if it's federal or state or any type of upgrades you may make. I know that you funded the initial repainting, but there'll be other things, but to have it consistent, you do have a choice. I would just recommend to go with the tower to make it cleaner, so you'd have it consistent with the federal designation, but legally you can do it either way.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Oliver, do you have any additional information you would like to share?
Yeah, just, I think Attorney Spencer covered most of it, but there are a few questions came up during the last meeting and since. So included in your packet are the Historic Preservation Commission minutes that have been updated to better reflect the discussion during the public comment section about the name of the structure, the water tank versus water tower debate, and both public commenters were in favor of water tank as the designation. I talked with Amber Kidd with the State Historic Preservation Office. She was the person who reviewed the designation report and recommended it in favor of the landmark designation. And she stated that it was common for historical structures to have multiple names, I guess colloquial and formal. She said that we could pick whichever when we wanted for the local designation report, and that the State Historic Preservation Office would keep both on record, but list as for their, I guess, formal information, whichever one we pick. But she cannot change the National Historic Registry, which was, I believe, completed in 1991. The National Historic Register report refers to it as Water Tower, and I've included the National Registry District Survey that was done several years ago in your packet. And as Attorney Spencer said, he's provided a designation ordinance with one with Water Tower as the name and one with Water Tank, and both of those are included in the packet.
Okay, there you have it, and I think at the last meeting, the consensus of the board was aligned to Water Tower, but that said, I'll entertain a motion or further discussion, whichever you prefer.
I'd like to make a motion that it is for a local historical landmark, and therefore we should call it what the local people call it. It is the tank, not a tower. It is a tank on top of a tower. Therefore, I would like to make a motion to approve the ordinance calling the local historic landmark as a water tank.
We have a motion on the table. Any further discussion?
I would rather take Chaplain Spencer's advice and leave it Water Tower.
Okay. Further discussion?
I would agree with Commissioner Stewart. I feel tower's more appropriate.
So, we just got done earlier talking about our heritage. To me, that goes to folks that have been around here for years. I don't know the specifics around 1991 and what the idea was to call it a water tower, or even how that, if it was a public process, or if
It was a public application, and on the application, page 18, it listed it as a water tower, which consists of a water tank on top of a steel structure. So it defined it. So
Right.
that's the gist of it. So very public, very formal application that was brought before the board, whatever the then existing board was, and approved accordingly. So both, well, from a historic, National Historic District standpoint, the water tower is part of our heritage. I get that people call it the water tank. But we have a legal recommendation. So we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? Because we have to address the current motion.
I,
The only one that hasn't weighed in on it.
Yep, go for it.
And honestly, it doesn't matter that much. In my opinion, it is a tower, tank on a tower. However, if public consent is that they would prefer to have it in a tank, I would probably leave it as a tank, as local colloquialism described.
And I'm not trying to agree or disagree. I don't want to portray this, though, as some widespread public discussion. We had two people come to the planning board, and, I mean, this isn't, so, with that, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have any further discussion?
Another question, Max, what does it look like at town level? So we go with one or the other. How does that, what's the word I'm looking for? How does that come to life at the bottom of this structure? Is there a plaque? Is there a sign that says this, that, the other? How does this come to life?
As far as I know, we are allowed, I mean, the state designates that historic landmarks, whether, I guess, kind of supersedes a sign ordinance, that they're allowed to put a small historical plaque designating it as such as the local historic landmark. And from this point on, I believe the ordinance goes to the county's registered deeds to be recorded. So to me, it seems like it's more of a local thing than anything else. As the State Historic Preservation Office said, they can record multiple names. I don't know past that how it affects federal rules or anything like that.
Also, it is up to this board to decide whether it's a local designated landmark or not. It's not up to the state, it's up to this board.
Which is what the whole purpose of the public hearing and the designation was. So we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor of calling it the water tank, which was what the motion was, signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? Motion carries 3-2, with Commissioners Warner, Hunt, and Fitzgerald voting in favor. All right, we have no additional new business. We have no closed session topics. Can't think of anything better to do than adjourn everybody to a downpour. So, does the board wish to take a public comment question at this point in time? Because we're out of the realm here. Are you, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Okay?
Fine.
All right. Yes, ma'am, would you please come up and speak in the microphone?
My name is Colleen LaPenna. I'm here from the Park Providence subdivision. And a few of us are here from the community regarding item C6.
Yes.
Seems to have been skipped over.
It was already approved.
Oh, okay.
Does that make you happy?
Yeah, it does, except we had a question regarding, I know, what was approved? The 2 stop signs? Yes? So the stop signs on Cutter Spring and Colts Gate, and also the stop sign on Logan Field and Cutter Spring? Okay, and then I think I had said, when I had sent the email regarding the speed bumps as they have in Barrington subdivision, that was also a question in the Park Providence neighborhood, if we were going to receive the same speed bumps that Barrington has, if that was something that was looked into in the engineering report of the traffic.
So that's probably something best addressed directly with you and staff.
I think the response I made by email was that is a you request.
Right.
And it go into the engineering process, and so if there are additional, traffic calming devices that would be allowed, then that'll go back through that public process again.
So is that another request that we should put in separately for, more importantly, I think, that Cutter Spring, that kind of is the U shape of the 2 entrances?
That has been entered into the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
That email served as entering it back into the process, so it's.
So my email served as that, okay.
Yeah.
And then how long does it take for the, once it's been approved for the stop signs to be put in place?
Several weeks.
It'll take several weeks. They got to go through an analysis and study, but Manager Ferguson will have somebody from staff get with you to kind of.
Unless Todd wants to.
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
So, hey, no, Todd, you're putting up the stop signs tomorrow. You're not arbitrarily going out there and just doing something. Correct? Okay. Your new request will go into the hopper, and
Yes.
Manager Ferguson will have someone from staff give you a timeline when they have a chance to evaluate.
Okay, and I apologize for being abrupt. I didn't realize.
That's okay.
It was already approved, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.